everybody, we're live with Angie Marsons, who I'm very happy has joined us for another chat. Start us off with an introduction to yourself and your books.
Okay, most of you in this fabulous group know that I write the Kim Stone series of books. Book 16, Sixth Grace, has just been released. I say that and I still can't believe we're at book 16. Not sure how we got here. But yeah, it's getting great reviews. I'm getting, some fabulous messages from readers, some posting in the book group as well. And yeah, that's me in the books, basically. Short story.
So what brought Kim Stone to you? What gave you the inspiration for her?
She'd been in my head for a long time, but I didn't let her out because I didn't like the sound of her. So I thought, well, if I don't like her, readers aren't going to like her either. I spent a long time writing books that I thought agents and publishers would like, which did me no good whatsoever for, over 20 years. And in the end, and I was writing books set in areas that I didn't know, again, because I thought publishers and agents would like them. And in the end, it was a case of, I am just going to write this character in my head, let her out. I'm going to try a crime book and let's just see where that goes. And that was Silent Scream. And I fully expected to hit a wall at about 40,000 words and say, oh, well, I tried, but it was at about that point that the story just seemed to take on a life of its own. And before I knew it, I was at the end and it was like, oh my goodness, I don't know that. I've got a 90,000 word crime book here. And that's how she came out. But I didn't really know her that well until I started writing the book. I knew that she sounded rude and obnoxious and brusque, which, she definitely is. But it wasn't until I started writing about her that I got to understand the other parts of her personality, that she's driven, passionate, always fights for the underdog and, really believes in justice and wanting, the criminals to pay for what they've done. So it was as I was writing about her that I got to know her better and started to like her just a little bit more.
We've already got some hellos from like Sam and Leslie. And we've got a question from David Monaghan Jones, who has asked you. I'm just going to read it out because it's quite a long question. He says, I'm guessing it wasn't too merry at the Merry Hill shopping centre working there as a security guard. Did that experience, and I'm guessing interaction with lots of tasty people, help contribute to your book's characters or storylines?
I wasn't actually a security guard. It does print that everywhere. I was actually in the management team and I was responsible for the officers. And there was a good cross section of personalities amongst the officers. So there's definitely been some fodder and inspiration for characters there. But yes, there was always incidents going on at the shopping centre, antisocial kids groups. We had a stabbing, we had an attempted suicide. There was, you just never knew from one day to the next, what was going to happen, because you're dealing with people. So anywhere where you're dealing with a lot of people, there's the potential for anything. We used to have a lot of visiting celebrities coming to do book signings. At Waterstones, some of those were great fun. Mentioning no names, Katie Price, that were quite high maintenance and demanded a lot of attention. So yeah, although it was a shopping centre, there was always something going on at the shopping centre.
I can imagine. Leslie wants to know what you prefer writing, Kim or the rom-coms?
Oh, definitely Kim. When I start writing a new Kim book, it's a lot of the readers say that when they start reading a new Kim book, it's like putting on a pair of comfy slippers, which is a lovely compliment because I know what they mean. It's like meeting up with old friends or family again, and that's how it feels to me as well. When I pick up a pencil to start writing the next book, it's like I sort of think, right, what have you been up to while I've been away? And it is like they are existing somewhere out there and I'm just telling their story. So yeah, I mean, I love writing the series because I love connecting with the characters. I never know which direction I'm going to send them in or what challenges I might put before them. So it's always a surprise for me what I'm going to get up to with the characters as well. But yeah, definitely the Kim books.
So you and I think Mel Sharratt both do a really good job of kind of bringing the Midlands like to people's attention through your books. Like, why did you choose to set them?
I think because I've tried using other settings, as I say, that I thought that, would be popular with publishers and agents, that I didn't really know or feel confident in it. It was a case of, well, I'm going to write about the area that I know because I can write about it with confidence. I know, what the areas I'm talking about. And also because of Kim's personality and the personality really of the Black Country, which is, it's got a dark industrial past with all the coal engineering and all that kind of thing. It really does suit her dark personality. She wouldn't be suited to a nice little village in the Cotswolds. Her personality doesn't match that. So they kind of match each other, really. So yeah, I decided to just write about the area that I know and just stick with it and write it with confidence.
So for people not familiar with the Black Country, can you tell them a little bit about it? Sort of what are the standout kind of...
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of parts made in the area for the Titanic. We've got the Black Country Museum. There's lots of coal production in the area. It was once rumoured that when Queen Victoria went through, she always used to draw her blinds, and also that Mordor was based on the Midlands as well, particularly the Black Country. And our Mordor, in the Tolkien novels, is portrayed not particularly positively, but as a dark and frightening place. But it isn't. I mean, there's lots of community, spirit within areas of the Black Country. So, it's like many other towns that, trading estates and small businesses and enterprises that have sprung up because of losing certain industries. So very, very, very similar to, to other small towns.
Have you ever had people who've told you they've gone to visit the area because of Kim?
Oh, yeah. I mean, in Silent Spring, there's a particular place where the bodies are found, which is an area that an old children's home used to be on, and there actually used to be an old children's home on there when I was a kid. And suddenly fencing started to appear around this piece of wasteland, and I was getting messages with photos saying, what's happened now? Why is Kim, has Kim found some more bodies here or something? And people saying, what's going on in this wasteland that Kim said. I mean, it ended up being flats and houses, but yeah, lots of people will send me a message saying, I've just driven past such and such and I immediately thought of Kim and this book or that book. So it is really fun when people who recognise the locations send me a message or text or something, or tweet or something saying that they've just been past and they immediately thought of Kim Stone and the team.
Do you ever write in any of the kind of more famous locations like the Black Country Museum or the Iron Bridge? You ever attempted to?
I've not done so too much yet, but I definitely would like to. I definitely plan on using some of the locations in the books. I mean, we've got at least another 12 to write, so there's plenty of time for some of the locations. But no, I tend to use familiar places, but not necessarily some of the most famous places. I think we've had some action at Dudley Zoo and Castle, which is quite well known, but not at the Black Country Museum yet. But definitely some stage in the future I can see that happening.
I'm loving talking to you because it's just taking me back to, I went to school in the Midlands. I'm just remembering all the places I'm into. While we're talking, it's just like a memory of childhood. We've got so many questions. So Leslie Lloyd's hubby says he wants to know how the criminals know that they're police before they show their badges. And he thinks that's when they visited the old teacher in maybe Play Dead.
Oh, we're going back a few books now. That was book 4. I'm now writing book 17. I think that Kim and Bryant particularly look like police officers, especially Bryant. So I think even if they don't show their ID, they've got that look about them, that look of, that look of police, like we're looking at you to see if you've done anything wrong kind of thing. So if they do occasionally forget their ID, then I think it's just that, they look like police officers. In my head, they look like police officers.
Do you think? I think there probably is some truth to that. Do you think that maybe sometimes people in authority, like police officers and things, do kind of have a certain look even when they're out of?
Yeah, we
carrying themselves and projecting themselves.
Yeah. I mean, back to when I was at Merry Hill, I mean, when we'd have incidents and oftentimes off-duty police officers would step in. And as they were coming towards you, even though they were dressed in plain clothes, you just automatically knew, like, off-duty police officer come in. So I do think that there can be a look about police officers, not in a negative way, but maybe they give off some kind of beacon or light or something. But yeah, I think there's something that they give off.
No, I think you're right. I'm a teacher, and I think sometimes you can tell people who are teachers when they're even when they're not like
teaching.
Yeah, there's just a way. You just know. So Sam has asked if Kim has developed in a different way than you expected or planned across the series.
I think so. I think she's probably softened in some areas. I mean, I really didn't have a long-term plan for her when I started, because I mean, when I originally signed with Bookouture, it was for 4 books. And look where that got us. So there wasn't really any firm plan of how she would develop. It's just each book, she has something different to face, and she grows just a little bit more from that challenge. I didn't expect her to become quite so fond of her team, even though she doesn't show it, and she would never say so. I didn't expect her to form quite the bonds with the rest of her team that she has. That has really happened gradually, and I love that, but that wasn't something that I kind of foresaw happening over the course of the books.
I'm trying to keep track of all. We've got so many questions. Hayley Bruce wants to know if you can tell her how many more Kim Stone books you have in mind.
Well, definitely. I'm working on book 17 at the moment. I'm signed now for a total of 28. So definitely that many. But I have always said that, I will keep, excuse me, that I will keep writing them for as long as people want to read them, because I can always think of new situations to put Kim in, new challenges to give her. So yeah, I'll just keep writing them as long as people want to keep reading them. I'll have another quick drink.
I think that's good news for people who are fans, isn't it? Like, people will really be happy that there'll be a lot more to come. So Sam has got a good question. She said Hayley Bruce, who just asked you the question about the series, who's watching, has appeared as a character in TG's books, one of our admins and authors. Have any fans appeared in your books?
Oh, lots. I mean, we've done different auctions for named characters as well to win money for charities. Also, quite a few bloggers have turned up unexpectedly. People who've been particularly supportive. Yeah, lots of people have just turned up. And it's just I do it really just to give people a smile, just to give people a chuckle. I did two ladies in the fiction CAF group who they're always shouting about the books, and I didn't actually tell them what I was going to do. And so when they read the books, they were absolutely delighted to have featured in that. Noelle Holton, who, she's one of the publicists at Bookature. I had her in a recent book as an absolute psychopath, and it made her day. She was absolutely thrilled. I totally had her permission, and she really wanted to be a baddie. So I made her a real good baddie. So yeah, lots of people turn up in the books.
It's kind of nice when you turn up in a book and you're completely different. So I'm interviewing an author, Jenny O'Brien, in the week, and she's written me into her book, and I'm like this man-eating kind of person, and I kind of like proper kind of vampy man-eater, and I love it because I'm not that at all. But it's quite nice to see yourself in fiction in a completely different way.
When people who've paid, to charity or in an auction or something like that, I do tend to ask them if they want to be a victim or a baddie, because you just want to make sure that, if you're going to make this real baddie and then name it after somebody, you want to make sure that they're okay with that. So I do always give people the choice of whether or not they want to be a nice person or a bad person. So, and then take it from there. But I also try and I'll ask them a bit about themselves and try and incorporate that into the character, even if it's not a big part. I did one recently where this lady won a named character in the auction, and I got a bit about her, and although it wasn't a big part, she told me that she was, very passionate about horses. So I just made sure to mention that she got some horse dangly earrings in, so that when she read it, she got that. Obviously, she knew it was herself because of her name, but just incorporating a couple of, character traits that I'd gotten from her. So I think that just adds a little bit extra.
Yeah, definitely. David Monaghan Jones has also said he used to love jobs in and around the Black Country. He's an ex-police officer. Great sense of humour, and to call the police academy tally ho is a good example. I'm guessing you knew what he was talking about.
Yeah.
Leslie thinks Kim has definitely softened.
She has definitely softened. I mean, there's definitely more empathy from her, and I think it's because of all her experiences. But I think if you get on the wrong side of her, she's still just as fierce and ferocious. But she's definitely softened towards people that she either trusts or can respect. If she's got no respect for the person or their values, then she's very much the old Kim. But I think having Bryant by her side has sort of taught her to be a little bit more accepting of people, and I think she's definitely softened a bit. But she's always going to be Kim.
Leslie thinks, as asked, can you put Steve Dimmer in a book? That would make him speechless for sure.
He would, wouldn't he? That would be funny.
And you've been asked if Kim will ever get a boyfriend.
No, it's not the plan at all. Definitely not in the plan, because it's a very personal decision for me, because one, I don't want to write about romance, and when I'm reading a crime book or watching a crime television program or miniseries, I don't want to be distracted. Excuse me, the dogs are barking. I don't want to be distracted by the will they, won't they thing. I just want the story. So there's romance and love interest for the other characters or some of the other characters, but not for Kim, because that's not the voice in my head, and it's not the character that's in my head. So no, there's certainly no plans. I remember I particularly loved a series written by Tess Gerritsen, and it was the Rizzoli and Isles series, and I absolutely loved the character of Jane Rizzoli, because was just a little bit out there. She was just a little bit different. And then Tess Gerritsen chose to normalise her by having her fall in love, get married, have a child, which I kind of lost interest then, because it became too much the norm, and I'd enjoyed the fact that she was slightly different. So yeah, I mean, there are plenty of detectives out there that have got love interests, and you know, they've got families and boyfriends and husbands and struggles and children, but that's just not the way that I want to write Kim. And I think most of the readers appreciate that, and enjoy that about it, because they know they're not going to get caught up in the will they, won't they thing. I deliberately made Bryant a happily married man, so that they could have banter, they could have a chuckle, but no romance between them. And so that's what I used to lighten the darkness of the books, rather than romance, is humour and banter, especially between Kim and Bryant, which I absolutely love to write. So, sorry, the answer is no.
Fair enough. We've got Aggie watching. She says, hi, Kaz and Angela. And she says, question to you, when did you realise you wanted to make Kim a series?
What happened was, when I wrote Silent Scream, as I say, I fully didn't expect to finish it. And when I got to the end of it, at that time I actually did have a London agent, and he read it and loved it. He sent it off to a reader, one of his readers, who didn't love it, and he kind of lost interest in me after that, but asked me to write another book. So I wrote another book in the series, by which time I thought, well, actually, there's a lot to say with her. There's a lot of stories to tell, but, sort of like, again, that book didn't sell, which was Evil Games. And by the time I wrote book 3, Lost Girls, he had dropped me. And that was that, which was a really, really difficult time in our lives, mine and Julie's. We were selling our possessions to pay the rent and the mortgage, because I'd taken voluntary redundancy from the shopping centre where I'd been for 19 years, to try and give the writing thing a go, and it hadn't worked. So yeah, it was the worst point that we've ever been at. I've got 3 books written in the series, no agent, no interest, and I couldn't get a job on top of all that. So it was a rough time. It was a rough time back then. But yeah, so it kind of just grew, I suppose, organically. And then when Bookouture did sign me, it was for 4 books. So I'd only got to come up with one more idea, because 3 books were written, and that was Play Dead. But of course, by the time Evil Games was published, there was a lot of interest, because Silent Scream had done as well as he had, which nobody was expecting, because every single publisher turned down Silent Scream. They never really gave a reason why. It was always a case of, we like it, but we just don't love it. So when Silent Scream did what it did, it got to number 1, which was Bookouture's first number 1. And obviously it was all first for me and Julie. We had no clue what to make of it all. And it stayed there for a month. And what happened was, the publishers who'd all rejected it started to make contact and say, what's your next book? What deal have you signed? And all this. And I let Bookouture know that I was getting this interest. And that was when they signed me for another 4. Well, they asked me if I wanted to sign for another 4 to take it up to 8. And obviously I said yes, because they'd given us the opportunity. They'd published Silent Scream. They'd had faith. And so I didn't want to be published by anybody else. Loyalty is huge to me. And I've always said that I'll keep writing for Bookouture as long as they want me. And they'll have to get security to throw me out. So, yeah, I'm with them for as long as they publish the books. I'll be there. So
how did you come across Bookouture?
Well, I didn't. There was a lady at the agency called Keshni Naidu, who was a reader at the agency, and we'd worked together on the books while I was with that agent. And she was absolutely gutted and heartbroken when he dropped me. And you know, we didn't really speak for a while. We had no cause to. And then I'd finally got a full-time job working night shifts and 12-hour night shifts in an alarm receiving centre. And suddenly I had an email from Keshley saying, when you've got a minute, can you give me a call? And it was like, well, all the time we'd been working together, I think we'd only spoken on the phone once. So it was a bit strange. So I contacted her and she said, I hope you don't mind, but I've sent Silent Scream to a young and dynamic digital first publisher called Bookature. I think that this series of books will be a brilliant fit for this publisher. They're looking to publish their first crime novel. I hope you don't mind. And I should have been excited, but I really wasn't, because it was like, I know what they're going to say. They're going to say what every publisher said for, you know, with every book for the last 25 years, which is, you know, we like it, but we just don't love it. So at that time, it was like, oh, that's nice, but I know what they're going to say. I'm just going to focus on the job now. I finally got a job. We're finally going to be able to pay our bills, and that's what I'm going to, you know, focus on. And then it was just a few days later that Claire, the publishing director, sent me an email saying that she was absolutely loving reading Silent Scream, and did I have any ideas for more books. And of course there were another 2 already written, so I couldn't reply to that email fast enough, because there was no but. She was just loving it. There was no but there, you know, and that was when it got interesting and exciting. And then when they signed me for the first 4, they took on Keshney, who'd sent them Silent Scream, as my editor, which was just the cherry on top of the cake. We'd worked together while she'd been at the agency, and now she was going to be my editor. And we worked together on the first 8 books until she moved on to start her own publishing company. So yeah, that was how it all happened. It was all because of Keshney, who I still call my fairy godmother, because none of it would have happened without Kesh.
That's brilliant. We've still got the comments rolling in. Let's see. So Maggie said, you said in one book that Kim not having a love interest is a deliberate choice on her part, as she didn't want to pass on her mother's genes.
Yeah, that's why she doesn't want to have children. So yes, in the books, that's why her character doesn't want to have children, because she doesn't want to pass on her mother's genes. So yeah, as regards to I have no love life at all, that's my decision. So
Dawn Cottrell says, hiya both. Angie, how do you keep such a brilliant series going without it getting boring? Where do all the ideas come from?
Oh, that's a lovely comment. Thank you for that. I always try and write a book based on a subject that I find interesting or intriguing. So the crime doesn't come first, the subject comes first. Such as like in Killing Mine, book 12, I'd always wanted to write about cults and the methods, the, you know, processes that they use for being able to tempt people in, the, you know, what we call brainwashing and coercion and all that kind of thing. And so it always comes from a subject that I find interesting, and then I go away and research the subject, and it's normally as I'm researching the subject that ideas for crimes, characters, twists and that kind of thing come. You know, I'll be writing research in one book, and then I'll have a notebook just to the left of me where I was like, oh, right, that character, oh, this could happen, oh, and about halfway this could happen. So I find that with the research tends to prompt the story. So, but I try and give Kim a different kind of challenge in each book. You know, because she's obviously not a maternal person. In one of the books I started off where, you know, she literally finds a child on the steps of the police station, and it was great fun to explore that and see how she dealt with, you know, just dealing with a child, which, you know, was funny. Well, it certainly amused me anyway. So I do try and keep it fresh by giving Kim different challenges in every book. And also, you know, the minor characters, sometimes they'll play a bigger part in books, and sometimes they'll fall back a little bit. So I try and keep it fresh, mainly really by exploring a subject that I find interesting and hope that the reader will find interesting as well.
And then we've got Susan McMillan, I think, has just said, Angela, first off, I absolutely love your books. And
Thank
I
you.
always look forward to them. But this isn't book related. Are your two gorgeous doggies okay?
Oh, they are splendid. They've been outside earlier today chasing each other. We weren't going to let them out the back because it's muddy, but we did, and they were chasing each other around the garden through the mud. And the big one, the girl, she was rolling a little brother around in a puddle. So yeah, they're absolutely amazing. They're fabulous. They best of friends, and they make us laugh or smile every single day. So yeah, they're absolutely adorable.
What more could you want?
No, nothing.
So, what have you read recently, or what have you read this year that's really stood out for you?
I read one of the ones that I really enjoyed was C.L. Taylor, The Guilty Couple. That was one that I really enjoyed. I tend to read a few psychological thrillers. I'll always read a Cale Slater book as soon as I can get my hands on it. I read a lot of other Bookature authors. I do like some crime series as well. I love Lisa Regan's series and Helen Field's series. There's so many, but I just don't have as much reading time as I would like because I'm doing 2 books a year. There's always something to be doing with the books. I can't normally read while I'm writing the first draft of a book because I tend to just need to stay inside my own story. So once I've written the first draft, then I tend to binge read, all the books that I've saved up on my Kindle. But no, I mean, I don't have as much reading time as I would like. So I don't get through all the books that I would love to get through. I buy them, I see them on, in the Kindle chart, and I'll buy them, I'll purchase them. And unfortunately, I just don't get round to reading all of the ones I'd love to.
No, but then you just end up with a massive stack of TBR books. Mine is growing all the time.
Yeah, I do. I've got, and then it still doesn't. I've got loads on my Kindle, and it still doesn't stop me buying ones I like the sound of. So I must start working through them rather than just keep buying new ones. So
Sam has said The Guilty Couple is Callie's best yet.
Yeah, I think it's a really good one. It was much faster paced than I expected it to be. So yeah, I really loved it. I think I read that one in one sitting. So yeah, it's a really good one.
And she's also asked how you separate yourself from dark scenes after writing them.
It's going to sound awful, but I tend not to give them too much thought. Probably a good separation for me is what we were just talking about, the dogs. Because after writing any scene, you go and play with the dogs for 5 minutes, and it's done. But I mean, there are some books that have been harder to write than others. A particularly difficult one for me was Dead Souls, book 6, because it was all about racism, bigotry, and hate crimes, and so the research for that, reading, of first-hand accounts of all of these things was hard. It was really hard that people have been made so unhappy and made to feel so alienated and isolated and less than. That was one of the toughest subjects that I've had to research. So probably I had to step away from the desk at times with that one. But no, as regards the murder scenes, I'm quite okay with the murder scenes. I'm not too fussed. I'll write it, but because I don't really include too much blood and gore and that kind of thing. I kind of give as much of a description as is needed to tell the story. But no, Not too bad. I can just tend to walk away and leave it at the desk. That probably says something about me, but we won't go into that.
Do you have any experts that you use? Like go-to kind of research people?
No,
Questions.
no, not so much people. I did have one guy who contacted me. He was an ex-police officer. He was a DCI, if I remember correctly, and he just sent me a message saying, love the books. If you ever need any advice or want to ask a question confidentially or anything like that, feel free to give me a shout. And I did shout him on a couple of occasions, but he didn't actually want to be named in the book in the acknowledgements. But yeah, I did ask him a couple of questions when I was writing specifically about missing persons. Unfortunately, not long ago, he did pass away, which was incredibly sad. And I did then mention him in the books and thank him for his help, and sent his good wife a copy of the books. And it was her that let me know, and let me know also that he'd absolutely loved being of assistance and help. So that it was lovely, but also very sad. But other than that, I tend to rely on books. I love factual books. Julie buys me the weirdest factual books, for Christmas. I have a pile, and honestly, she must be. Don't talk about me being on some kind of FBI watch list. She must be with her Amazon shopping list. The books that she's bought me, somebody somewhere is watching her. Honestly, because the books that she comes up with, I've never heard of them. They're interesting, they're great, but oof, goodness me, somebody's going to come and arrest her one day. I know they are. So yeah, it's mainly books and the internet.
So what's the single best kind of research book that Julie's given you?
She bought me some really good ones for Christmas, and they're just there. There's one that Split Self, Split Object. I have no idea what that's about, but I'm looking forward to finding out. She bought me a lot of ones on cults, and reading those was one of the things that inspired me to write Killing Mind, because reading about it just really interested me. But yeah, she buys all kinds of weird books for me that there's one there, Nazi medical experiments, but I will say I did actually ask for that one, so I'm to blame for that one. But yeah, she buys me some weird stuff, bless her.
There's nothing wrong with that, though. At least she's helping you research.
Oh, she helps me with everything. She really does. She really does. She's a part of every section of the process. Julie's involved, and she's such a fresh pair of eyes on things, or a fresh brain. Not long ago, a couple of weeks ago, I was really, really struggling with an aspect to the plot, and days I tortured myself over this not feeling right or that not feeling right. So, in the end, I said, Julie, I need a meeting. We had a meeting. 10 minutes later, it was all sorted. Off I went, carried on writing like a steam train, because she knows the characters just as well as I do, after all this time. So she can just offer a fresh perspective on everything. That I'll get so mired down in it that I can't see the wood for the trees, and I'll start to think that there isn't an option, and then I'll talk about it with Julie, and she'll always point me in the right direction. So she's as much part of the process as I am, because as I do say, and I've always said, the books wouldn't get written without her. They really wouldn't. So she's huge.
Has there been any TV interesting, Kim?
Over the years that there has been. I mean, when Silent Scream first came out, and it was number one and all that, we had quite a bit of American interest in wanting to make a feature film and Americanise it and that kind of thing. And, you know, that just didn't feel right. There was just something about the whole thing that just didn't feel right. It was quite a big studio, and we hadn't got an agent because I don't have an agent for the books, but we didn't have an agent for anything. So we were kind of, it was all no man's land to us. So we got in touch with Lorella Belli, who had been selling the books to foreign translations on behalf of Bookouture, and you know, we both trusted her totally, and she now represents us on film and TV. And that, what was being talked about at that point just wasn't how can I put this? I understand that a lot of authors really want to see their work on the television or as a film or something like that. That's not the priority for me, because it was never the dream to see something on the television. The dream was always to write books. You know, all those years, all I ever wanted to be able to do was write books and call it a job. And, you know, I'm so lucky to be able to do that. So anything to do with TV, it's kind of like, yeah, it would be nice in some ways, but in other ways, not if it had a detrimental effect on the books, because the books will always come first before anything else, which I know some people might find a little bit strange, but I want to write the books for as long as I possibly can. And if somebody got hold of the rights to Kim Stone and then ruined it, which is also, it's always a possibility, will that stop people from enjoying the books? You know, I think I read once that Ian Rankin never watches any of you know, his books televised, because it would change the way he thinks about the character and the way he sees the character, which I can completely understand. So yeah, I mean, interest does come and go. These things take a lot of time, sometimes years, but it's not something that I worry about or think about, if you know what I mean, because it's more important that people are continuing to enjoy the books. That's good enough for me.
Makes sense. Sam has asked if Julie reads each book first.
Yeah, we have a process, Julie. While I'm, because I think most people know that I handwrite the first draft with pencils and A4 notepads, and as soon as I finish the first exercise book, Julie then types it. But before she types it, she'll kind of read a few chapters and then type them. Read a few chapters, then type them. Read a few chapters. So she's kind of like reading them and typing them at the same time. And she's leaving me notes along the way. And then, so by the time I get to the end of handwriting the first draft, she started working on the typed version of the second draft, which she then sends to me. So it's like a continual production line, if you like. And then she'll keep sending me chapters and I'll keep working on them. And then if we think it's necessary, Julie might have another read through before it goes off to Claire at Bookouture. But by doing it the way that she does it the last few books, we've been happy that she's picked up enough of what needs to be changed or altered at that stage of the process. So, but yeah, she reads everything first, and you know, I'm not going to lie, she is brutal. She's, you know, there are no frills on her advice and, you know, her observations. A long time ago, I handed her the first chapter of something I was writing. It was one of the Kim books, and she read it and she literally said, "Well, who wrote that? I don't even know who wrote that." She said, "That's not your writing at all. It made me feel nothing. I don't know what you wanted me to feel in that chapter, but I didn't feel a thing." Oh, I was crying my eyes out. I was in bits. But I went away and had a look at this chapter, and she was absolutely right. I read it back and I was like, what's that? What am I trying to say here? I redid it, took it back, and she was like, now I feel something. Now I get what you're trying to do. So she's brutal, but she's also my biggest cheerleader. She's the person who for 25 years kept me writing when I was getting rejection after rejection after rejection, and she'd do it in very sneaky ways sometimes. But she was the one who always kept me writing and submitting, because she would always say, it's their loss, not yours, and it will happen. Keep the faith, keep writing, keep learning, and just keep doing it. And there were times, you know, sometimes I'd get maybe 5 rejections back in one day. You know, and I didn't want to carry on. And she'd say, go and sit at the table. Don't pick your pencil up. Don't do anything. Just sit there and, you know, just think, just have a think. And she knew full well that if there's a notepad and a pencil in front of me, that I'm going to pick it up and start writing something, because you can't help yourself. Even, you know, if you've had masses of rejection and you feel, you know, so down, then you pick up, you know, and you start writing about how down you feel. You can't help it. If there's a pencil and notepad in front of you, you're going to pick them up. And she knew that, and so she would always keep me writing. And she always said, I don't care if you never get published, as long as you never stop writing, because writing is who you are, and it's more important to write than to get published. So she would always get me back to the desk or the table after the rejection. So yeah, she's seen it all.
You've got a few more questions about this, actually. Leslie wants to know if Julie prints the chapters off or you read them on screen.
Sorry. She is reading the handwritten. This is what, that's what I write, and so that's what Julie reads and then types. But if she is going to,
so Leslie's question was, when she sends it back to you, does she print it off for you to read, or do you read it on the screen?
No, I do it on the screen, because I'm going through it for the second time, and that's the second draft. So there's entire sections that come out, new sections that go in. So now I do it completely on the screen then. So I'll come off the paper and onto the screen for the second draft.
Why do you choose to use pencil and a notebook for the first draft?
Because when I was at school, I always liked the process of writing. I loved the process of feeling the pencil scratch across the page. And that was what I absolutely loved, and I still do. I've tried a couple of times to do it straight onto the computer, but it doesn't work for me at all. And I was speaking to somebody I did a podcast with a couple of weeks ago, and he has the exact same problem. If he does it on a computer, he just staring at an empty screen. It just does nothing for him at all. It doesn't inspire him at all. But put a pencil or a pen in his hand, and that's it. And I'm the exact same. Once I've got a pencil, I can just write. It's a longer process, but for me, it's the only way to do the first draft. So I've tried doing it the quicker way, but it just doesn't work. It's like there's a connection from the pencil straight to my brain that I don't have by pressing the keys. So it's just strange.
Just show us your notepad again. Very neat though. At least Julie's got like.
No, it gets worse. I mean, Julie says that the more I'm in it, because she knows when I'm feeling the bite and I can't get the words down fast enough, because my handwriting gets even worse, and it's so I start off nice and tidy, and then when the thoughts are coming thick and fast, I'm just doing that as fast as I can. So my handwriting deteriorates considerably when I'm feeling the bite.
Leslie's also asked if you ever thought about self-publishing.
Well, I did. When I was dropped by the agent, I had 2 other books written, which at the time were called My Name Is. Well, they're now The Forgotten Woman and Dear Mother. And I did actually put those on Amazon, the self-publishing platform. But of course, I didn't know any bloggers, I didn't know any reviewers, I didn't know how to bring attention to them. So I think we sold on average 1 a week or something like that until the Kim books were published. And then obviously I never actually advertised them or spoke about them, but people were just finding them as a consequence of the Kim books. And so people started buying those as well. And then Bookouture asked if I wanted them to republish those and, give them a jacket, new title, a refresh, and edit them with me. And that was what Julie and I decided to do, was to take it in-house with Bookouture, so that they were responsible for all of the books. So yes, I did self-publish, and I would definitely recommend it to anybody, because I think that now Amazon has made it a lot easier for people to try and share their work. That was all I wanted to do over those 25 years of rejection, and had that been in place those years, I would have definitely made use of it and tried to do it that way, definitely, because all I wanted to do was share the stories with people. So I think that Amazon do a fantastic job of connecting the reader and the books.
There's a lot more help out there as well, isn't there, for self-published authors now to get the advice about marketing and things too?
There's online articles, there's podcasts, and there was none of this when I was trying. I mean, I used to get the Writers and Artists Yearbook. Julie used to buy me one every single Christmas, which is a great tome of a thing, and lists all the agents and publishers, UK and, many international. And it's a massive book, but it was, full of good articles and information as well. And I would just work my way through that, submitting, to every publisher and agent I could find in that book. And that was, printing off 3 copies with a synopsis, taking them to the post office, sending them with a stamped addressed envelope. You couldn't email publishers and agents then. It was all done, by the post office. So it's a lot has changed. But there's definitely more help and advice out there now. I recently did a podcast with Joanna Penn, the Creative Pen, and she does, so many articles on finances, self-publishing, marketing, everything. So yeah, there's loads of help out there now, which is fantastic.
You got some more comments. So Leslie has said you and Julie sound like a great team.
Definitely.
We've all learned from this chat. You're a really good team. Sam said Roald Dahl wrote with pencils onto a yellow legal pad.
He did. I remember seeing a program on that. And, if it's good enough for Roald Dahl, it's good enough for me.
And who said this? Sorry, I'm just going to look and see if I can see who said it. Aggie has said she likes to write on paper too, although it leaves her with a sore index and pinky finger. What's your tip for that?
Definitely. Absolutely. I mean, I definitely, get sore hands. This, my right hand. I try and, do a sensible amount of words each day. A sensible amount for me, hand-wise, is probably about 2,500 to 3,000 words. If there's been days where I've done 4,000 or 5,000 words, the next day I know about it. My hand is definitely aching and hurting, and it's harder to write the next day. So I definitely try and limit, how many. But saying that, I've rediscovered nighttime writing, because I always used to write around full-time employment. So that meant writing early in the morning and late at night. And a couple of weeks ago, Julie said to me, why don't you, go off into your room sort of like, not late at night, but, sort of like 10, 11 o'clock and see if anything comes. And that's how we always used to work. And sometimes, we'd be up till 2, 3, 4 in the morning. If I got the bite and wanted to finish what I was working on, Julie would just be, saying, "Are we staying up a bit longer then?" I'd be, "Yeah." She's like, "Yeah, cool, no problem. I'll put another program on." And she'd be watching horror or supernatural programs, and I'd just be away, just scribbling and scribbling and scribbling. And so I've sort of like rediscovered that a little bit, because you're not going to be disturbed. It's a quiet time, and you can just really feel that intimacy of you and the story. So I'll probably be at the desk later on after having some tea. And who knows what time we'll get to bed, but Julie doesn't care, bless her. She'll just say, "Yeah, I'm good. Should we have a cup of tea and carry on?" So, she's great like that. And the dogs don't care, obviously, as long as, they've got a sofa to lie on. They're not too fussed.
You don't have the problem of smudging as you're right then. That might be a left-handed thing.
Yeah.
Sam has said, "Thank you both so much. This has been a lovely hour. Congratulations, Angie, on such a successful series. Thank goodness for Julie."
Definitely.
You kept going. I think that's what all of your fans are going to be saying after this chat.
They do. I mean, I often get asked, by other authors, they want to Julie, can they hire mine? And, we've got a calendar where we're considering renting her out for a week at a time, but I just have to pick the weeks that I can't do without her, and there's not many of those, I'm afraid. But she's fabulous. We do work well together. So, yeah, she's amazing. I won't tell her that, though, but,
But it's good to hear that you've always had that champion, and maybe that's what you needed to keep going, and maybe that's what lots of people need.
I think so, because I think from my point of view, I didn't have any education in creative writing. I didn't go to college. I just had a love of words, and I just wanted to tell stories. So, there wasn't a lot of validation in whether or not I'd actually got any kind of skill in it until I started entering competitions in Writers' News, and I got shortlisted, and that was the first time that I ever had anything at all. And it was fantastic. But Julie has always kept me going and saying, "You can do it, you've just got to keep at it, it will happen." And I may have carried on writing, but I probably wouldn't have submitted had it not been for Julie, because she just kept me convinced that, that it would happen eventually. So, yeah, it wouldn't have happened without her, bless her.
Do you want to finish us off with a reminder of where we can find your books? Can people buy signed copies from you?
I haven't got any signed. There are no signed copies available at the moment, but now they can normally be found. Obviously, the ebook is on Amazon, Kobo, iBooks. I think is it Google, the Google Play as well, or something. Google. I never know the Google one. The paperbacks are on Amazon and normally from Waterstones as well, so they pop up all over the place. You never know where the paperbacks are going to be, but definitely from Amazon. So yeah, that's where they all are.
It's been an absolute pleasure chatting to you for an hour.
It's been lovely. It's been some great questions, and I want to know who's going to win the best question.
Oh, I don't know. I'm gonna have to go back and reread, aren't I? I'm going to go back and look at all of them to find out who's won the best question. But I will let them know tonight.
Thank you. It's been brilliant. So thank you to everybody who's come along and asked questions. It's been lovely.
Thank you. That's the main thing. Thanks for joining us.